Oh, so you've not been recording all the things I've been saying.
No, I'm not really. I just wanted us to have a chit chat first. So great. So Esosa, can you just tell us who you are, your background, academic background, how your journey has been, and where you are currently, and where you hope to be
Sure.
after now?
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, Esosa, a proper Niger boy, born and brought up in Lagos, but from Delta State. So studied accounting in the university at Unilag. And then after that, so I mean, school was undergraduate was really good. It was nice. I mean, nothing special. I wouldn't say I was like really amazing student. I also wouldn't say I was a bad student. I mean, I was okay. I was quite good, but nothing spectacular. And I think the change came for me like my second year, when, because I mean, my first year I was poor. Yeah, I was just coasting through school. I didn't really understand the difference between like secondary school and university, so it was just really difficult for me to be in the university. But in my second year, I started doing ACCA. I imagine a lot of people on the call will know what ACCA is if you're trying to get into accounting or finance. But essentially, it's the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, like the international equivalent of ICANN. So I started doing that really because my dad he pushed me to do it. So I started doing that. And I think just taking the time to go through that material really exposed me to the volume of things that were out there. And of course, after doing that, schoolwork, since I was studying accounting, schoolwork sort of became a bit easier for me. And I really started having that belief in myself that I could get things done. And so my performance in school significantly improved. And I took that all the way from my second year to my fourth year. So eventually, when I was supposed to graduate, I had issues with NYC, typical Nigerian problems. So in my final year, I took a 100 level course. And because I was one of the few 400 level people to do it, I think for some reason my result was not uploaded. So I couldn't go for NYC where my mates were going. So I had to stay back home for like I think an extra 8 months, which I think was a blessing in disguise. Because when school was done, I couldn't go for NYC. I was just at home doing nothing. I started really preparing for my ACCA. So I was at the final stages, and then I wrote a couple of papers. And then after that, I started teaching JAM, right? I mean, nothing fancy, just something to hold body and soul together. But I knew that wasn't really what I wanted to do. It was just something for the short term. And then I randomly applied to a small bookkeeping firm in Lagos called Accounting Hub. I had a wonderful experience there. It was my first time working. It was very challenging. Some of the tools that I would take for granted, like Microsoft Office and some of these accounting tools, typically if you're going through a Nigerian school, it's crazy because you almost never have the chance to use these tools, even though they are essential for the workplace. So I was at Accounting Hub for like almost, I think for about 18 months, yeah, a year and a half. And then after that, I joined KPMG in 2018, where I was in the Energy and Natural Resources unit in audit, which is actually where I met Testimony. So we're colleagues at KPMG. KPMG was a good experience, learned a lot of things, worked with amazing people. It was fun all around. It was challenging, as Testimony, I'm sure, will testify to. But it was a good experience. Like I feel like a place like KPMG just teaches you work ethic to just like keep grinding even when things are difficult. So it was a good one. I was at KPMG for like almost 3 years. But at some point, I knew that I wanted to do something else. And so I started thinking opportunities. I first started thinking about the masters in finance. Started speaking with some schools in the US. I knew I didn't want to do it in Nigeria. Started speaking to some schools in the US. And then the first school I spoke to told me to consider doing an MBA just because of my level of work experience at the time. So I started looking into MBA programs. And I mean, everything looked nice. I started speaking with people. And that was when I decided that, I was going to focus on the MBA. So Essentially, it just shows that you can try to plan things, but it's very difficult to plan 3, 4, 5 years into the future, right? Like, I mean, of course, have the plan, but things will always change along the way. Like, it's inevitable, things will change. You have to course correct and things like that. So I started looking into MBA programs, to be GRE as testimony knows multiple times before I got the score that I felt comfortable with to apply to schools. And then I got into University of Chicago Business School. I started in 2020, so moved to the US in January of 2021. School was amazing. It was great to not have to do work for 2 years, meet people, just have free time on my hands to do pretty much whatever I wanted to do. And so graduated in June of 2022, and then left Chicago and moved to Dallas to start working at BCG, which has been a great experience. I mean, I said KPMG was challenging, and KPMG really taught me certain things. I think at BCG, just like double that for the level of challenge and the level of things you learn within a short period of time. So also moving to a new city without family in the US. But so far it's been good. It's been really amazing, learning to love the city, learning to love the job. So part of my long spiel, but that's essentially who I am.
Yeah, it's nice. It's okay. It's really good because that's essentially what we are looking to. Because we try as much as possible to put more context to everything so that everyone understands in right. That's really good. So you mentioned during the course of this particular introduction that you had to like face like more like a gap period at different points, but most significant was what many Nigerians are actually allude to that fact, that gap period from final year to your NYC, either because of the school placed your name or because of the school doing certain things, or ASU strike, or ASU strike comes to do their own thing, that kind of thing. That's particular hiatus period. So from your experience, how can you just give in depth into like the steps you had to take to be able to pull yourself out of that dungeon of what would I call it now? That dungeon of desperation. You had to just stay at home and you don't even know the next steps to take. So what exactly did you do that made you like surmount that particular challenge?
Yeah, great question. And to be honest, I really empathize with the people that are either currently in school or just recently finished. Because all through my time in school, I only faced the ASU strike of, I think it was 2012, that lasted for 6 months, and that was just it. But I know that like in the last 4 years, people have probably only been in school for like 18 months, while the remaining 2.5 months, people have just been at home. I know the way Nigeria is, for your entry level job, they want you to be 26 and below. And then ASU and COVID has taken like 2-3 years of your life. And then let's say your school messes you up and then you have to wait. At that level, it's just like a higher level of desperation, which I didn't face. So for me, it wasn't really so much of a problem. I think the key thing for me was the fact that a lot of my classmates were, one, applying to jobs that I couldn't apply for because I had no idea when NYC was going to come through. And the second thing was, like I said earlier, I wouldn't say I was like the smartest person in the class, but you know, typically when you know your stuff, people will know you around, like your classmates will know you that, oh, this person, like you can go to this person for questions, they'll be able to answer you. And then when those people that are coming to you for questions are going for NYC, and then you're at home doing nothing. I mean, you won't take a microphone and broadcast to everybody that, oh, I passed this course, but my school didn't let me go, right? The assumption would just be that this person has a carryover, except your really close friends that know your story. So it was just really, really stressful. But the thing for me was finding ACCA. Because I think at the end of the day, the most important thing is to find something to keep you busy during that period that will be helpful for your career search. Extremely important. So if you want to start ICANN, if you want to start ACCA, if you want to start the CFA, if you even want to start applying to master's programs, that's like the best time to do it. Invest 3, 4, 5, 6 months, whatever number of months it is. Take the GRE, take the GMAT, even though you don't yet want to go to school. So one really amazing thing that a lot of undergraduates in the US do is when they're in school, they just take the GRE or the GMAT and they just keep the results, right? They don't necessarily know what they plan to do with the results, but they just do it because the result lasts for 5 years. 5 years is a really long time. After 5 years, you might choose to go back to school, because when you're in school is when your brain is still hot, is when you have the time to do these things. Once you start working, it becomes extremely difficult to combine work and things like the GRE. So if you have this hiatus period where nothing is really moving, invest that time in something that will be productive and help you in the future. So I've given some examples. I can repeat them again. You can decide to do the GRE or the GMAT. If you're in the finance accounting space, ICANN, ACCA, CFA, just invest in something, right? As much as possible, try to avoid, because it's very difficult to get into a rut where you're depressed and nothing is happening. You start spending your time on almost all your time on social media or just doing nothing. Social media is amazing. Exactly. People are making money on it, but it's just about defining what you want to do. You want to be a content creator, then of course focus all your time on that. But if not, then do it with some level of moderation and focus on the more important things.
All right, thank you very much. Wonderful advice there, because this is one thing that last week when we were having a conversation with some of the persons here, they mentioned that we were at that cross. But again, that one of the biggest challenges for some of us, myself included, is our parents could barely even afford to even pay our fees. In fact, for some of us, our parents stop after first year and you go fend for yourself. And I know that that's the realities of many other persons, because I see a couple of students that now have to work and go to school, which I actually advocate, because one of the things I've come to realize is that there has been this, maybe for myself, for the people I've come across that actually work, and I mean work, maybe not going to do some kind of laborious job. When you do these service-related jobs that fill your mind, and Esosa, you can even allude to that fact. In KPMG, some of the guys that were in delivery center, see many of them having amazing results even while working. Yeah, because there's this kind of thing that working does, that it kind of polishes you and makes you focus on what matters. And maybe another thing to that part, contributing to that, is that you have less time, so you tend to waste less time. You tend to waste time very less and just focus on
100%.
Maybe it does that. But again, my question is for some persons that they don't have such opportunities. How do you think they can be able to fund some of these things, because they require some money? And alternatively, what other options or alternatives do you think they can take that might not require so much investment of cash, maybe?
Yeah, to be honest, that's a really difficult question for me, because personally, I really don't have so I'd say I think I was really lucky, in the sense that my dad was quite we were quite comfortable growing up. So I didn't have issues with my school fees are not being paid on time, or I'm in school reading but I haven't eaten because there's no money to eat, or so my dad took care of those things. He paid for ACCA. It was never a problem. I was doing the exams back to back without any financial challenges. So it's really difficult for me to give personal advice on what that will entail. And I know that people's circumstances are different, right? Someone might think they have financial challenges, but when you see another person with problems that are even worse than yours, you know that there are levels to these things. So I think I'll just say, for people who maybe are not too well to do, but you're not the one training all your junior siblings, and you're not the ones taking care of your father and your mother. Because I feel if you're in that situation, there's almost nothing you're going to be able to do to even have any change with you. Because even if you get a job paying you 300k, 200k, everything will go to your family. So if I start from the folks that, maybe your parents are taking care of your siblings, so you don't have to do that, but you're just not getting enough money from your parents. my advice to you would just be to try to identify opportunities that can be helpful. And I think it's become easier recently. I mean, testimony will allude to it. The time when we went to school, some of all these online things, like you see people in Nigeria now making money in dollars, and they're really balling in Nigeria. It really wasn't a thing there. Like you almost couldn't do it, except you had like deep connections, or you just knew certain things that the average person didn't do. So I think things like, if I were to be in those shoes, then things that I would have done would be like just teaching lessons. I mean, you're in school, right? There's no reason why you shouldn't be able to do those things. Just try and invest the time to build and develop yourself to the level where you're able to teach like WIAC lessons, JAMB lessons, and things like that. And have practical experience in this regard. So I'll just give my example on how I got involved with this thing. It was as easy as, I think one of the most important things that I've learned so far is just be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to be told no, because if you have that fear, you won't take chances. So literally what I was doing is, I mean, for those of us that live in Lagos, and I imagine same thing happens in other places, you see all these tutorial centers, they will paste their, what's it called? It's not necessarily banners, those like small paper that they paste on the wall where they say, oh, JAMB, WIAC lesson, put their phone number. Like I'll literally call them and say, oh, this is who I am, I'm looking to teach JAMB lessons. And of course, if you call 20 people, maybe 18 people will say you're not serious and will drop you, because that world is really a world of referrals. Like if you're teaching in certain places, the owners of other places just know you and may try to get you. But if you're trying to break in, it's much harder. So I literally just call, and then I got one opportunity. I went to the school to meet the person. Although then I'd finished university, so it probably was a bit easier for me. But I took my transcript, took those things, showed him, took my ACCA results, showed him where I was. And then that's how we started. I was teaching accounting and economics. And then in 2015, I was still earning, I think I was earning like 1,000 naira per hour, I think was what I was earning. Yeah. So, and you know, in all these tutorial centers, you teach for 2 hours. So whenever I go there, I make $2,000, 2,000 naira, sorry. And the place was close to my house.
I was looking for that tutorial center right now.
And the place was close to my house. So I didn't have to spend transport. I walk like 15 minutes to the place and make my 2,000 naira. That was the only place I was teaching. But imagine if I had 3 places. Fine, it's an incredible time commitment, 6 hours out of your day. But that's 6,000 naira a day. And I know they must be paying more now. So that is something that you can potentially do. And the truth of the matter is doing foreign certifications like the ACCA and the CFA is extremely difficult now because of the exchange rate. So if it's ICANN you can do, just focus on that and do. Like if it's, I don't know, ANAN, there's something called ANAN Association. I don't think I'll advise anybody to do ANAN, but if you can do, I can do it. If there are also other robust examinations that you can do those things. I really don't know much about like some of all these online certifications like Coursera and those things. I don't know the extent to which those things help. They probably help you develop your skill, but I don't know if they'll help you get a job, because at the end of the day, we're still in Nigeria where certificate is king. So the way they will view like an ICANN certificate is different from the way they will view a certificate on Coursera, no matter how many hours you invested in that thing. So you can use those things for personal self-development, but don't forget the fact that in this world, they need to see what you have to even invite you. So look for something that people know and that has the credibility to get your feet in the door. Then for the people who maybe they are taking care of their siblings, to be honest, I really don't know like what you can do. It's an unfortunate situation. That is the only thing I'll say, and I've had some friends in that position, and what I typically tell them is, and it might sound harsh, it might sound wicked, but bro, if you need to like limit like what you spend on like your parents, especially. Try and do that, and then try and focus on yourself as much as possible. It might be to the detriment of your family members, but I strongly believe that if you make some of these investments and you develop yourself and you get something better, you're in a better position to help them. So that is the way I see it. It might sound selfish or wicked because I haven't been in that shoe. If I were probably in that position, I probably wouldn't take my advice. But from a position of no experience, that's probably what I'd say. But I fully understanding that it's definitely a tough one. It's just, I think the thing I would say there is try your possible best to ensure that you finish with the best grade in school, if you're still in school. You don't have money to do ICANN, you don't have money to do all those things. If you're in a place like Unilag, I know when I went there, school fees was 9.5. I don't know what it is now. You probably don't have so much problems paying your school fees, but do your best to ensure that you give yourself the advantages that somebody that has ICANN would have given themselves by doing ICANN. So if you can finish with a first class, amazing. If you can't, maybe have a 4 point something, just put yourself in the best possible position to get a solid job, because you don't need money to do that, right? You just need time and investment in your books. So if you can't do some of these other certifications and some of these other things, do that. And extremely important, which is one thing that I had no idea about when I was still in school, is the benefit of internship and networking. It's just not a cultural thing in Nigeria. I think social media started making it better because you're exposed to people you don't know. So it becomes easier to just reach out to strangers and say, oh, this is me. I think you're doing really well. I'd like to be where you are. Do you have 30 minutes for a conversation? So I think social media has made it easier. But when I was in school, it was so bad that, like, I used to think of people that used to do internships as these ones then to the bear. They are just, instead of them to stay at home and rest, they are busy doing internship. Do they think internship is what will get them jobs? But I didn't know I was being foolish. So take the opportunity, do the internship. It might not pay you as well, but it's something on your resume that will make it easier for you to get a job. Go on LinkedIn. If there are people that are doing things you want to do, speak to them. Of course, if you reach out to 20 people on LinkedIn, maybe only 5 will respond to you, and eventually 3 may drop by the wayside and you're left with just 2. But even if you get just 1 person, I know someone, an older gentleman in the US, also in Dallas, and I was having a conversation with him like 2 months ago, and he was telling me that someone randomly reached out to him on LinkedIn and he paid the person's GRE. So opportunity, when the person reached out to him, I'm sure the person didn't ask him outrightly that, oh, pay for my GRE, right? Because if the person had done so, he probably wouldn't have responded. But through conversations, through seeing that this person is serious, he paid for the person's GRE. At least that GRE is like 100K or whatever it is. That's a lot of money. So if how do you get to that level? You need to show that you're serious. That's the truth of the matter. Nobody will waste. He paid for the guy's GRE because he had confidence that the guy would do well. So spend a lot of time answering the question. But bottom line, 1, try to do as well as you can in your undergraduate program. 2, try to get internships. And then 3, network as much as you can and don't be afraid of being rejected.
Very much. I think this is very instructive because this just puts a lot of things to perspective. So let's just go straight to consulting. So why consulting? I just want to ask a couple of questions in one breath. Yeah. Why consulting? What does consulting really mean? And then after that, just go straight into the opportunities available for us. First off, why consulting and what does consulting mean?
Yeah, great question. Why consulting is something that I'm probably still trying to figure out, but I'll just say, so while I was at KPMG, I knew I mean, there's nothing wrong with accounting, but advice for everybody, if you have the opportunity to be in like, so a lot of people don't know that there's a difference between accounting and finance, right? They are two completely different things. So accounting is essentially, you know the textbook definition, you identify, summarize, blah, blah, blah transactions, and then eventually leads to preparation of financial statements. So pretty much everything you're doing is historical. We're just recording transactions, you're analyzing them. Did they follow the right accounting standards? Did they recognize the transactions well? If not, adjust the transaction. And then you get the financial statements, and this is how you performed last year. That's accounting. Finance is a much more different ballgame. Finance involves futuristic things. There are different levels to it. It can be things like, oh, you're getting involved in the stock market, you're an equity trader, you're trying to analyze the data and current happenings in the market to see which company's stock is going to go up. And so you try to buy that stock, or which company's stock is going to go down, and maybe you short that stock. It can also be things like getting involved in transactions. One company is trying to buy another company. A lot of people probably heard of like Elon Musk buying Twitter. Elon Musk would have had his own investment bankers, which is like a subset of finance. And Twitter would have also had their own investment bankers. So because these things deal with like future occurrences, and they involve like more application of just your mental manpower, mental horsepower rather, they tend to pay more, and they tend to be viewed as more prestigious. So accounting is different from finance. So, but I was doing accounting at KPMG. It was very historical, to be honest. So I was fine doing it, but at some point I just wanted to do something different. I wanted to do something where like we could advise on things that are yet to happen. So, and I mean, just like a lot of people on this call, I'm sure, like I also wanted to just leave the country, right? It's not, I'm not shy to say that. So that was also another thing. So opportunities to leave the country, pretty much only school, right? That's school, or you get a job outside. And if you're in Nigeria, extremely difficult to get a job in the US or in the Western world. So that was school. And of course, I was not going to pay tens of thousands of dollars to go and study an accounting to go and get an accounting degree again, right? So that was why I initially wanted to do finance. So long story short, when I got into business school, I wanted to do finance, right? It's something I didn't mention actually. So I did like a finance internship at Amazon. It was good, but it just wasn't my cup of tea. And then I started looking at the opportunities out there. And I think the beauty of consulting is that, one, it enables you flex your muscles in ways that I don't think finance, even like high finance, like investment banking, allows you to. And it's all subjective. Someone in investment banking might have a different opinion. But I feel like because for every consulting project, you're pretty much starting from scratch. One of the good things about accounting, testimony will tell you, is if we do an audit for a client last year and it's time for an audit this year, we just take everything we've done or everything we did last year, we roll over to the current year and look for any changes and just plug in. I mean, it's not as easy as that, but I mean, that's essentially
what that's the high level, yeah.
Right. But in consulting, two problems are never the same. Because if you solve the problem for a client last year, ideally, they shouldn't be bringing the same problem to you this year. That means you didn't do a good enough job for them last year. So no two problems are the same. So you're starting from scratch for every single thing, and they can be really short sprints. Like the last case I was on was just for 4 weeks. So in 4 weeks, speed on like a new industry, try to deliver as much as possible. So if you're able to like use your mind in ways that I think there are very few jobs that can give you the opportunity. And it's a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because you get to develop yourself. It's a curse because there are a lot of like the expectations are significantly high because it's a difficult thing to do. So that's one good thing about consulting. The second thing I really like about consulting is It's one of the few areas where you can keep working in, but until you get to a certain point, maybe when you start making partner, like principal or partner, you can pretty much still leave consulting and go into any industry. Like, you don't tie yourself into something. Like, the fact that you're in consulting doesn't necessarily mean that you go into the industry and be in strategy. No, you might be in operations, you might be in finance, you might be in HR, you might literally be in whatever, just depending on what specific area you were focusing on in consulting. And for a lot of people in the first 2, 3, 4 years, they don't choose to focus or specialize in any particular area. They keep the options open so they can go into the industry and pretty much do what they want, of course, to an extent. But those are like the two things that I really like about consulting. In terms of why I personally went there, it was just I felt it would give me the best opportunity to do a good job, to make good money, and also because that's super important. And then also, after a couple of years, if I decide to leave, my exit opportunities will be quite significant. So
That's really, I think that gives a lot of context. So again, for our situation, many of our audience here are probably people NYSC, waiting to get their first job. Some persons are in school, waiting to get into the labor market. So if they want to navigate like a career in consulting, what are the key things you want them to find out? Remember, again, Nigeria, I know from the US perspective, from the US undergraduate perspective, it's a bit easier. Just have to, the applications, they're fine. But again,
yeah. I think, to be honest, so I wouldn't be able to give personal experience because I didn't do consulting in Nigeria. What I can say is, like, I'll definitely agree with your testimony. I think is more difficult to get into consulting in Nigeria. Reason being that, like, I got into consulting directly from school, right? Because in the US, a lot of these firms will recruit directly from school. And so once you graduate, you join them. That's really not a thing in Nigeria. So everybody has to, like, start from scratch. Everybody has to apply. And it's tough because even when I was in KPMG, even when I already had like 2, 3 years of experience, I was still applying to consulting in Nigeria. While I was preparing for business school, while I was like doing my GRE and getting my applications in order, I was still applying to McKinsey, BCG, Bain, like the big consulting firms in Nigeria. We're so bad that you'll apply now and 5 minutes later, you get an email saying you've been rejected. It's like they're not even looking at your resume. So I don't know the code to crack getting into consulting in Nigeria, but I know that those people have employees, right? So those employees must be doing something right. So I think the thing I'd say is probably in your undergraduate program, try to get as best a GPA as you possibly can. And I think more importantly, the culture of these firms are the same, whether in Nigeria or abroad. Being able to network, I think, is a very, very key part of getting into consulting. It's an uncomfortable thing to do, just randomly reaching out to strangers, but you have to be willing to do it. So go on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a fantastic tool. Go there, look for people in consulting firms in Lagos. Just randomly message them. Of course, try to craft a compelling message that they'll be willing to respond to. Because the truth of the matter is these people are really busy. They have a lot of things to do. So except you're able to, you typically, either they know you or you guys share something in common that is really, really niche. So they don't share that thing in common with a lot of people, or they find your initial message very interesting. Because think about it, these people are working and they're probably getting, like, to be honest, probably getting like 20 messages a month or 30 messages a month for people that want to try to get into consulting. So if they have to schedule calls with all of these people, it means for almost every day in a month, they're going to be taking out 30 minutes out of their time to speak to people. It's impossible. So they probably will only speak to 1, 2, 3, 4 people in the entire month. So you need to do something special to stand out of 30 people. So I think if you go through their profile, if you have things that you share with them, definitely try to bring that out in the email that you share with them. Be straight to the point, tell them specifically what you want. And the truth of the matter, it all boils down to what's on your profile. That is the truth. It may be unfair, but the truth of the matter, and it has happened to me because I'm one of those people that also receive a lot of outreach from LinkedIn. If you send me a message and I see that, oh, maybe this person went to Unilag and maybe is currently working in Microsoft in Lagos, but they want to come to business school, but they're trying to get into BCG. And then the second person messages me that, oh, you went to, and I'm not trying to throw any shade. It's possible that amazing people went to that school, so really successful people went to that school. But for some reason, it's the name that always comes to my head. You went to Lautech, and maybe since you finished, you haven't gotten a job, or like, I don't know, you're working in, like, I really can't tell a lot of things about you. I'm more likely to speak to the first person than the second person. And it's unfortunate, but it's just the way things are. And I'm sure other people also make choices the same way. So as much as possible, make sure, and some of these things is just packaging. I mean, there has to be content, but know how to package it as well. So package yourself properly on LinkedIn, put your best foot forward in your, what's it called? Is it header or something? You know, when below your picture, there's usually like text about you. Try to make that as concise and as amazing as possible. That also increases your chances of someone accepting to speak with you. So do that. Try to craft a good message. And I mean, most people here should have heard about ChatGPT. I think it's a fantastic tool to generate such messages. Just open the tool, give it some context, and tell it to draft a message for you. And I'm almost certain that it will draft a really good message that you might have to adjust, but leverage that tool to come up with messages. So I think, yeah, reach out to people. Networking extremely important. That is the best way you can get it. But also try to have a good GPA and have good work experience, which I think I did, but that didn't get me into the door. That didn't even get me an interview invite. So I think networking is your best bet.
All right. That's really good and very instructive. So again, there is something that is very predominant with getting in or interviewing, which is like the case interview. I know that there's a particular saying because I was also in your shoes, trying to get into consulting. I think I even started my own stamping for consulting from NYSC. Yeah. So again, there's this particular saying that everyone is prepared, feel like they have the mental capacity and all brilliant and intelligent. They are hit with a case interview. So I know that it's one of the most difficult interviewing tools. That is like a very good filter system for like the consulting world.
Yeah.
For people that are still that have like the experience, maybe they've done a couple of internships in the past, have good GPAs, and feel like consulting is. How do you think they should best navigate getting in? Because for me, with my experience with many Nigerian students, I feel like a lot of them have like that foundational intelligence. And for some of them that I know that have actually done quite a lot, there was somebody I met that's in final year that have actually interned in Microsoft, interned in Google, interned in KPMG, PwC, like has that bag of internship everywhere. So you know and has a very, very good GPA, I think in the 4.9 zone. So you know that kind of person already is setting herself up for success. But the biggest challenge for that kind of person is both the networking and secondly and most importantly, even getting prepped for the case interview. What kind of advice are you going to give that kind of person?
Yeah, great question. I think one good advice I got when I was doing my case prep is for case prep, you need to sort of tweak the way you think, because thinking like the normal way that we think is not the way you should do case prep. So, for instance, one thing that they typically like to see is to say, okay, you're trying to answer a question and you say, okay, I'd like to consider 3 things while evaluating this problem. The first is this, the second is this, the third is this. But typically, the average person will say, okay, to be able to solve this problem, I'd like to look at A, B, and C. So it's like a different way of answering questions. So you need to be able to kind of tweak your mind a certain way. And anybody can do it. I mean, not everybody can do it. That's the truth of the matter. Because if everybody could do it, everybody would get into these firms. But I think most people have the capacity to do it. To some people, it's natural. Like some people probably won't prep much and it's easy for them. Those people are extremely lucky. But for the average people like me, you just need to put in so much time into the process. Now, if you're in business school, it's easier because you have these resources to help you prepare. But I assume most people here are not in business school. So important things, one is, I think YouTube is a very helpful tool. There's a channel on YouTube, and I'll drop the name here. Let me type it in. It's called Management Consulted. It helped me a lot because what you get in Management Consulted is they'll give you tips. And then the CEO of Management Consulted also does live case prep. So like she'll prep someone and record it. They'll do an actual case. And so you're able to see, okay, this is how the actual case works. This is the way they ask questions. This is the way people answer. And then she'll give the person feedback at the end that, okay, this is the way you should have answered this question. This is how you did. So I think just seeing that live is one thing that a lot of people, at least in Nigeria, don't get the opportunity to see before they go for actual case prep because there's almost nobody to prep with. So one, using tools like Management Consulted. I think the second thing is try and get your hands on some of these casing textbooks. I really don't know the name of anyone right now because one of the advantages of business school as well is that like the consulting club will come up with like a case book that have tons of cases that you can go through. But since that is not easily accessible, I'm sure if you go on YouTube, if you go on Google and search for like the best books for prepping for management consulting cases, I'm sure you'll be able to see some. There's one that is really popular, but I didn't use it. And so for some reason, it's escaping my mind. But yeah, use those tools, read those books, at least one book. And then I think the most important part of the process is another important thing, not the most important, but another important thing is math is a very, very big thing in management consulting case prep. It's not a big deal. It doesn't help you so much if you get it right, but it's a very big negative if you don't get it right. Because nobody will be employing you to come into consulting because you can do math. The bigger thing is, are you able to structure the math solution rather than solving the questions? Like if you say 2 + 2 = 3, nobody will really penalize you as long as you know, okay, this is the way I get the first 2, this is the way I get the second 2. Because in real life, those things are done by Excel. You really don't need to like solve them using your head. So being able to structure math problems is really good. And if you're now able to do the arithmetic, even better, because there's really no negative, like there are no risks in getting all your math problems right. So one tool that I know was available to me then is called Rocket Blocks, but I know you have to pay for that tool, so it probably won't be available to a lot of people here. But I'll also suggest doing a Google search to say, okay, what apps or websites can I use to prepare for math drills? It's as easy as it just gives you 20 questions. First is 6 multiplied by 5, 30, you get it. Next one, 8 divided by 3, you get that. So essentially just continue solving math problems. Like every day, make sure you solve math problems. It gets your head to a level where, like, whenever you get a math problem, like, you're always in shape. Like, if you're going to the gym regularly, you just get stronger. So doing that, but I think the most important part of the process is having actual people to case you. And that's the most difficult part of the process. For context, when I was preparing, I did like 20 cases, which is like people cased me like 20 times. Some people had people case them like 40 times, but that is within the business school environment. That is not, most people, especially in Nigeria, don't have access to those types of resources. So, and the best people to case you are typically, especially if you're in Nigeria, are people that are working in these firms. And as we've established before, it's very difficult to get their time, even to discuss general things. Now talk more of getting them to, because for them to case you, they have to think about the case they are going to give you. They are going to have to spend like 10, 15 minutes going through the case again, ensuring that they refresh their mind on the case, and then spend another 30, 45 minutes casing you. That's an hour of their time. So it's extremely difficult to get someone to case you. So what I'll say is, if you know someone personally that maybe works in or knows someone in any of these firms, don't be shy to even ask for that resource. Like, there's something my dad used to say that, like, I always remember. I said, if you're trying to ask for something, your hand has to be longer than the hand of the person that is giving it to you. So don't be shy to ask. Be shameless about
Be
it.
shameless.
Exactly. Be shameless about it. The worst they'll say is no. So being very cognizant of the fact that it's very possible that you might actually not get anybody to case you. I think your next best bet is tools like Management Consulted, which is the YouTube thing. So as the lady is asking the questions, maybe you can pause it and then try to give your own answer, and then play it and then see how the person answers it. So that's probably the next best thing you can do. And I'm sure, you know, the way the YouTube algorithm works. If you watch a lot of Management Consulted videos, I'm sure you start seeing more consulting prep videos. Like, it's just the way the thing works. So yeah, definitely leverage YouTube as a tool, and then the books. And then the third one is the math drill websites. And then fourth and most important, and also most difficult to get, is getting an actual person to case you.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. So for some people, for some persons here that are trying to, like, find out career path for them, one of the biggest things for them is the financial incentives. Financial incentives, like, okay, I'm torn between accounting, consulting, investment banking, private equity. So what range of salary do you think a consultant should expect? Maybe somebody, an undergraduate, or like, so that it can add to the inspiration?
Yeah, sure. One, I don't know, and I might be wrong, but most of the people I know that have gotten into like these consulting firms at like their entry level in Nigeria anyway, typically have like some months of experience or like a year. So I don't know that they like take people with no experience. So, but I might be wrong. I'm not sure, because I don't have as much experience with these firms in Lagos. In terms of salary, I also am not sure. I'm sure a quick Google search will get you that number. It might not be exact, but it will be a good estimate. But I once heard in like 2019 or 2020, I think. 2019, I think. I once heard that, like, if you're entry level at, I think the person was at Bain, that the pay was like 700 and something K. And I don't know if it's true or if it's wrong. It's just something that I heard from someone. I didn't fact check it. But I felt like at the time the number was reasonable. So if that was the case, then it's almost certain that number has gone up today. So, but I'll just advise people to like go on Google. You'll get, so the thing is, if you go on Google and see a number in USD, don't work based on that, because the compensation across regions is different. So what somebody in China will earn is different from what someone in London will earn, which is also different from what someone in Nigeria will earn. So as much as possible, try and get the number in Naira, and then I think you should be able to get it on Google.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's really good. I don't know. Do you have like any other words of advice? Before then, does anyone have any questions? Before we go ahead, does anyone have any questions?
I have time. So if anybody has questions, feel free to ask.
Does anyone have any questions? Questions, please. We need as much questions as possible. Questions? Okay. If there are no questions, okay. Oyebode, Awofemi, you raised your hand. Okay. You can ask your question.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, you're very dim. I think you should speak louder.
Mr. Esosa, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Oyebode, sir.
So this my question is, I really want to appreciate everything that you've said, and it's really giving me personally some sort of encouragement. But one of my questions is concerning the certifications that we have. Like, I want to make myself as an example now. I studied banking and finance in school, and I'm currently serving now. So I feel like I'm not that financially fluent due to my background to actually do some certification. So instead of that, I use this opportunity, like now I'm learning data analyst with Polaris Bank and Netcafe, and also I'm having another certification with Coursera. So when you mentioned Coursera the other time, like you don't think they rate it some, so I actually felt somehow when you mentioned it. So that's why I wanted like more clarification from you. That it's not something, is it that the certificate is not something we can present at work? Is it where we are when somebody is actually looking for work? Is it that we cannot?
Yeah, I like that you're asking the question, and it's a really good question. So let me put it this way. I think two things. One, it depends on what you're trying to optimize for, what you're trying to study. Now, if you want to be a programmer, if I have a company and I need someone to like maybe create a website for me, or even graphic design, my first question is probably not going to be, oh, where did you get your degree in computer science? Do you have a master's? Do you have a PhD? Or do you have a master's in graphic design? No. My first question would be, what have you done? Right? Can you send me a link to websites you've created? But if you want to get into accounting, nobody is going to ask you, oh, send me like financial statements you've prepared, or send me, because you usually don't have any proof of your work, right? So the only thing that will be able to speak for you is, what did you study? Okay, I think I just saw a message there. You're a graduate of accounting, you didn't have time to start your ICANN, you want to start after NYSC, and someone gave the advice that instead of writing ICANN, I should use the money to learn a tech skill or write ACCA. Yeah, so I'll speak about your message to the chat. But what I was saying before, if you're doing accounting, what to speak for you is your degree, what certifications you have, and your work experience. Now, if we dive deeper into certifications, so I think I'll clarify what I said is, I think it is good for personal development. Right? So having a certificate in accounting or audit or something from Coursera, I think will help you develop yourself personally in learning the accounting concepts, what audit is about. But when it comes to like what they evaluate to say, okay, let me invite this person for an interview at KPMG and testimony, I mean, feel free to come in. And I might also be wrong, but I'll tell you for free that the priority is probably going to be someone that has ICANN. I mean, all things being equal, if you have three people, they have like similar everything, the priority is probably going to be one, the person that has ICANN, two, the person that has a degree in accounting. So the fact that you have a degree in accounting will be helpful to you. And the third would be someone that has a certification, like a Coursera certificate. Because the thing about those things is, I don't even know if you did it yourself. Because these things are online, like anybody can do it, anybody can get the certificate. I know some of them are quite intense and quite hard, but they don't have the fact of the matter is they don't have the credibility that certifications like ICANN and CFA have. Because for you to do ICANN, you actually have to leave your house, go to the exam center, write the thing, get your result, and you do that for a period of like 3 years. And then we'll say, okay, this person is an ICANN member. Compare that to a Coursera thing that you might do for 200 hours. They are not at the same level. So the bottom line is, I don't think you should expect, if you're interested in doing like accounting and finance, right? Those certifications can be good. And if you don't have a choice, like if, for instance, if you don't have the money to start ICANN, definitely do those Coursera things. But I'll say instead of doing Coursera, look for certifications that may not be as prestigious, but that can be helpful. I know there was a time it's called FMVA, Financial Modeling and Valuation, something was really hot at a point in time. I don't know if people still do it, but for someone that wants to get into finance that can't do CFA, that's a good thing to do. So I'd much rather do that than do like financial modeling thing in Coursera. So if you don't have a choice, if like that is all you can do, definitely do it. If it doesn't help you get a job, it will help you build your knowledge, right? But the two things I was comparing is doing a Coursera course and then doing something like ICANN. They are definitely not on the same level, and that is the truth. Then in your message, you said, learn a tech skill or write ACCA. I don't know how helpful learning a tech skill, like, so the caveat is still you want to get into accounting, right? Or let's say finance. Learning a tech skill is a useful skill in life generally, or learning tech skills is useful for life generally. Like it can help you shine in your job. Like for instance, you know a tool and you're working at a place and your manager wants you to solve a problem. And you tell the manager, oh, I use this tool to solve this problem. It took me 10 minutes when Excel would have taken me 2 hours. That's really fantastic. And your manager probably had never heard of the tool. But the question to then ask yourself is, if your manager has never heard of the tool, why would they then invite you to interview? Because they don't even know the tool. So if you want to get into KPMG, for instance, learning Python is really impressive. It's a hard thing to do. I've tried to do it multiple times and I stopped. So it's a really hard thing to learn. It depends on whoever is interviewing you. If I'm the one interviewing you, I'll be like, wow, this person had the dedication and the patience to learn Python. I think even if this person didn't study accounting, they'll be able to do well just because they had the tenacity to learn Python. Another person who has probably never tried to learn Python might be like, Python is not relevant to accounting. Let these guys sit down. But guess what? If you have ICANN, then it's no longer a thing of judgment. It's no longer a thing of like being subjective. If I'm the one interviewing you, if there's another person interviewing you, we all know ICANN. We all know the rigor you go through to get ICANN. And yes, I'll advise you, if you have the capacity, because ACCA is financially challenging, do ACCA instead of ICANN. If you have the capacity, I'll definitely advise you to do that. Especially also since if you have ACCA, ICANN exempts you from a lot of papers. Because I know when I did ICANN, as an accounting graduate, I ended up having to do only 2 papers. That's all. So I definitely would advise you to do ACCA instead of ICANN. And yeah, take the time. You're doing NYC. Take the time to learn the tech skill, learn some of these other things that can help you in doing your job and potentially help you in trying to get a job. But the bottom line is just that a major certification like ACCA will definitely be like more helpful than a course on Coursera, and that's just the truth.
Yeah, thank you very much, Esosa. I think I'll also come in there. So the core of everything is actually relevance, and that's even the essence of why we are doing what we are doing here, because relevance is the most important thing. How relevant is what you're doing to your goal? Last week we were talking about identifying your why, identifying like understanding why you are doing what you're doing, and the goal that you're trying to achieve. Very important. So if I want to be I want to like get an accounting job or an audit job in the KPMG, for example, that is my goal. How will learning a tech skill really help me get that job? So there are different things you have to understand. I already have a job, but I want to be better at my job. What do I need to do to be able to like become a better financial analyst? I can go learn a skill on tech on Coursera, become a better financial analyst, because I'm already doing that job. I want to get better. That's self-development, building a skill. However, I want to get my foot at the door. It's just that there's another job for you there, so you can there's another question for you there, so you can just read. I want to get my foot at the door. I don't have anything. I just have like my normal PSC, bachelor's degree, and I want to get my foot at the door. I want to get a job in accounting or auditing, KPMG, WC, or any company at all. Or maybe I want to get into investment banking or consulting. It just makes sense for me to actually, okay, maybe not for consulting, but at least for investment banking, accounting. It makes sense for me. It makes sense for me to actually, first of all.
So this morning, he called it back and that they gave him a new project, of which this one will take more time than the previous one. So that's just the issue.
I think as the admin, you'll be able to mute him.
Yeah, I'm trying to mute him, but I'm just dodging.
It's like this man is at a bar drinking beer and Nkwobi on a Saturday afternoon.
I can't even find him. Okay, I think he's better now. Okay, he's muted now. Yeah, apologies everyone for that. So again, as I said, relevance is the most important thing. If I want to get a job in a KPMG, an accounting job or whatever, doesn't it make more sense for me to just do something that is already recognized by everyone there, because it doesn't require judgment. Nobody is going to say, okay, nobody is even going to know how you can do analysis. Nobody will say, what financial statement have you done in the past? No. Oh, they'll say, what certifications do you have? Okay, this is like a primer that, okay, this person has knowledge in this field. If you can get work experience, even perfect, maybe you've worked before in an accounting or audit firm, it will make more sense. That's what they call relevance. But again, if you have to weigh the relevance of getting ICANN ACCA versus just learning a tech skill for an accounting job or an investment banking job, then the ICANN and ACCA trumps. If you get work experience in that line, maybe you worked in a place on an internship, even better. I just hope that also clarifies. That's just the other question for you.
Yeah, so there's a question from Vivian. I'm an undergraduate of economics at OAU. My friends are currently going through their ICANN while pursuing their degree as well. I do not really see myself being able to do the two because school results matter as well. I got advice to take the FMVA or CFI, also that I can go through the skills and professional stages of ICANN after my BSc degree. How true are these things? So if you are studying accounting, then I'd say definitely do ICANN, because there are, what's the word, like
exemptions.
If you think of like a Venn diagram, what's that part of the Venn diagram? Yeah, exactly. It's that they intersect with each other, and the advantages when you're doing ICANN while studying accounting, it really help your undergraduate program. But because you did economics, and I'll ask Testimony to come in here at some point, because I know he also did economics. I think if you personally feel like, because capacity is different for all people, right? If you personally think that, it will be really strenuous for you to do your degree in economics while pursuing ICANN, I'll definitely advise you to focus on doing the degree and try to get your best possible grade, because you can't change your degree, but you can do ICANN papers multiple times and eventually get the ICANN certificate. So if you strongly believe that there's no way for you to do both, and I really don't know if that's the case, because I didn't do economics, then my advice would definitely be for you to focus on doing your undergraduate program and maybe doing ICANN later, maybe starting it when you're doing your NYC. You got advice to take FMVA or CFI. So this would be my personal advice, right? It boils down to what you want to do. If you have plans to eventually go for a master's at some point in the future outside the US, instead of doing these things, I'll say do the GRE, right? Or do the GMAT, because I think that's a better use of your time than FMVA or CFI. FMVA is the thing I was trying to talk about, financial modeling and valuation thing. Then CFI, I know, also has something to do with finance. So they don't take as much time. If you don't have plans to go for like masters and you have some spare time on your hands, to be honest, instead of doing these things, I'd say spend that spare time trying to do ICANN, even if you're doing one paper a diet, because I'm sure the time you spend to do FMVA, the entire FMVA, you can probably spend that time doing one ICANN paper, right? Spend that time doing, even if you're doing one ICANN paper a diet, just do it such that when you're done with, when you're doing NYC, it's quite that you already have 2 or 3 papers down, and so you just focus on the rest. But I definitely advise you to do like ICANN rather than FMVA or CFI. But another thing, testimony, please come in here. I don't know what the exemptions are for
economics. For economics, I can't remember, but I think it's one, and it's irrelevant. Trust me, it's not much. The exemption is just one paper, and that's for at foundation level. For an accounting graduate, I think they are exempted from every foundation paper. So just go straight into skills. That's for accounting graduates. Because the papers that you write, I'm not very sure now, maybe things have changed. But during my time, it was just, I think it was one paper, it was one particular paper. The rest, I had to write everything. I think 6 papers at foundation or 5 papers at, I can't remember now. 6 papers, 5 papers. So it's just 1 or 2 papers, maximum 2. It's not more than 2. So I don't think the advantages from exempting yourself from 2 papers is worth the wait. But if you feel like, oh, you can't actually do it, by all means focus on your, but immediately you finish at, see that hiatus period from finishing your degree, getting NYC, start. Because if you intend to like get something in finance, then it's a very good investment of your time. Another thing again I actually want to emphasize is trying to network more. If you have a very good result, better network more and get internship opportunities, especially for that short period in semesters. It's going to be a way to just level your understanding, and essentially it's even going to help you in school, because all those theoretical things, microeconomics, macroeconomics, that's making more sense. Start understanding monetary policy. I don't know your lecturer anyway, but I'm not going to be very confident engaging an undergraduate of economics on monetary policy compared to somebody that have done an internship maybe in a Vertiva or an AfriInvest or a KPMG or a PwC. I think those ones are, or somebody that have done an ICANN or ACCA. I think those ones would have built more matter, would have built more capability, more capacity. That's actually the advantage. But I respect the fact that it takes, it's time consuming and it might. So again, to summarize, first, the advantage of those exemptions you are getting are really insignificant. They are just 1 or 2 papers at the foundation level, every other thing. That's just it. That's what I'm saying in that one. For the FMVA, if you don't have any alternative, do it. But as Esosa has advised, it's better to invest that time in maybe the GRE or GMAT, just have it out. That one you don't have any timeline. You can start preparing for them and just start preparing for them. Get materials, get prepared, such that once you finish your degree, you are writing that paper and giving that software. So that's another advice.
Yeah. And then one quick thing before I move on to the next question is, in my personal experience, I feel like people that do ICANN or ACCA while in school, it helps them rather than hinders them. Like in my personal, all the people that I know that did ICANN while in school, it made them better in their actual school work. I think there's something doing such professional exams due to your capacity, your composure, and just your ability to like answer exam questions or whatever, that just makes you do better at your actual school program. So that's also something to keep in mind. The next question is from Jim. It says, between the online and in-person assessments to enter BCG in Nigeria, which is more difficult to ace? I have a question for you, Jim, before I answer your question. When you say...
So perspective, Jim online, is actually interviewing for... I think I can even answer that question because I've been there before. I know exactly what you said.
Okay.
So Jim, I think from your question, you applied to BCG and they gave you that assessment to do, correct? You can unmute yourself and give more context. It's going to be.
Yeah, because my question was, is it at all? Like, do they give you a choice? Because the way I understand it, the online one is like a screening before you then do the in-person. So I don't think it's a choice.
Yeah, it's actually the screening. Yeah, so the choice there is that sometimes they can tell them to come to the BCG office and still do that screening, that particular case, that particular screening, or they do it in their house. So I think they just make that choice. So it's the same thing. What I just changed is I just changing your location. I'm writing the same thing.
Oh, so for the online, for the first stage, you can either do it online or in person.
Or in person,
and then when you pass, you now do the main in-person one.
Yes, the main in-person case. Yeah. So the online one is at BCG, I think what they call that one. That's akin to McKinsey's PST.
Yeah, that's KC.
Yes. So yeah. So that McKinsey problem solving test. I think it's potential. They call it. Is it potential? Something they call it. I've forgotten the name they call it. Yeah.
This
just
is
that
what
written
I say
case.
For this question. Yeah. I think it depends on personality. There are some people that feed off the energy of who they are interviewing, who is interviewing them. And so for those people, if they are doing an online assessment, it becomes harder for them. Me personally, I feel like the online one was harder for me because you don't have so much context. You're not seeing the facial expressions of the person you're speaking with. It's just a computer asking you a question and then you have to type. So I think I prefer the in-person one to the online one, but some people might prefer the online. And I wouldn't necessarily say one is more difficult than the other, to be honest. I'll just say it's down to personal preferences.
I think, do we have any further questions? Any further questions from anyone? So again, I know we've taken so much time, but it was really important because getting Esosa here was very difficult. So please ask your questions because Esosa might not be joining us anytime soon. He had to take time off his schedule to join us here. And again, to emphasize what we're trying to do here for some of you that joined quite late, what we're trying to do is just to give people choices, to give them the opportunity to make more informed choices. Essentially, get acquainted with the career opportunities available to them. Get rid of that notion of school as scam work. That's essentially it. I know that I feel like it's lazy people that have not broadened their mind that say that kind of nonsense. And because of country does not even make it even better. But again, there are lots of opportunities for people that decide to study, even though the present might not seem so. So it's just for you to make the best of your current situation. And by just giving you those tools, giving you access to professionals that have been there before, done that, so that you are seeing them as living witnesses to your future success. Secondly, they give you guidance. For some of you that were able to write the assessment, we have like a closed group that we are going to train for a short period of time and probably offer them opportunities for internship. We are still assessing that. We'll give you like a call eventually. So Esosa, another thing we're doing with that closed group is just identify high potential people and then give them access to mentors like yourself. Maybe you can each an hour a week or an hour, 2 hours a month, just to guide them on how to like package their CV, connect them to certain opportunities, high performance people, people that were high promise and very serious. We're trying to engage them for like 3 months, gather them and then connect them to mentors that can just guide them in whatever they want to Yeah. So I just wanted to
Yeah,
bring that up.
no worries at all. I'll also jump in and quickly say, as much as possible, one thing you always want to do. So we're talking about ways to stand out, right? Like I was saying on LinkedIn, ways to stand out. One of the ways to stand out in places like this, or scenarios like this, is to ask questions. And I mean, I'm not an invigilator that's trying to award points to people that are asking questions. But guess what? If you post a question in the chat, I mean, I'll see your name, right? So if the person then sends me a message on LinkedIn, I'm like, oh, I think this person attended so CFO Africa thing. So if I have time, that is another plus for me to respond to your message. So you might have attended this thing, but because there are a lot of people that are attending, I won't even know that, oh, this person attended, so there's no context for me. So, and same thing when you go for any interview, please always ask questions. It just makes things more conversational rather than, oh, I'm just talking to you. It's always better if there's some back and forth. So when you're going for, very, very important, if you're going for any interview, prepare like 2 or 3 questions. You might not have the time to ask the question, but it's always good to have questions to ask. Because me personally, if I'm interviewing you and I ask you, do you have any questions? They're coming to work for a whole organization and you tell me you don't have any questions. It's a bad sign for me.
All right. Thank you for adding that. So I think this is going to open the floor for a lot of questions. Anyone doesn't have any questions now? I actually think that we should all have questions because we are still trying to find our way. So I'll just give the next 2 minutes for anyone that wants to.
And there's also the anonymous thing. So is there a way to send? Oh, I don't know if that is enabled, but I know. I mean, yeah, feel free to ask your questions if you have any. Testimony. Yeah. I don't know if it's possible to enable the anonymous. I think I've seen it on some Zoom calls.
Let me see if that can be done here. Anonymous. I think they can select it from their own side. They can send anonymous. They can send as anonymous.
Oh, okay. And then you can probably send to testimony like directly, and then he can post to everybody if you don't want everybody to see your questions. Can I talk about my journey to BCG?
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll talk about my journey.
Okay, just
talk about my journey. But chances are it's going to be difficult. It's going to be different from your own journey. So my journey was like through business school. So I was there. These firms, depending on the school that you go to, these firms will typically come to your school to come and recruit from the school. So they came to school, started speaking with them. You have like coffee chats, speak with like multiple people at each firm. And then after that, they decide, okay, we're inviting XYZ people to interview. And then you do the interview, of course, behavioral questions, case interview. And then at the end of the day, some firms can tell you, okay, we're doing multiple stages. Some firms will say, okay, you have everything, all the interview. You have just one interview. So we first like for BCG, we first did KC, which is the online thing. And then based on that, you then know if you're going to be invited to interview. And then at the end of the thing, you know if you're in or not. So I'd say it's a streamlined process, and all these things happen within the space of like from October to early January. So like 3 months, you know if you're in or not. So it's most likely going to be different from your process. I'm almost certain that your process is that you applied without any context, without like speaking to multiple people. You just applied. If you were lucky, you're able to speak to 1 or 2 people, and then they sent you the link to Casey. So, yep.
Okay, Okay, that's good. I think we've actually spent a while. So, any final words for CFO Africa?
I think I'll just say that I think this is a really good thing that you're doing. The fact that a lot of people are on here, I think is very inspiring to me, and I really like it because like you said, there's the whole thing about school as scam that is now very prevalent in Nigeria. A lot of people don't want to go to school. They're focusing on like other things. You know the way now Yahoo, Hook, all those things.
This kind of nonsense.
Forget say we know the Nigeria, we still know everything where they happen. So a lot of people are choosing to focus on those things because the economy is the situation of Nigeria is really not encouraging spending time to get educated, and I can sympathize with it. But seeing these people here is at least a level of commitment that they're interested in taking this path. So I'd say for the folks here, this is a really good step. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep attending events like this. Keep listening to people. Keep reaching out to people. And just know that, especially with the way the world is going, international opportunities are available to people living in Nigeria. So if you're still in the undergraduate level, then definitely start looking into exploring opportunities outside of Nigeria and seeing what is out there for you. Because look beyond Nigeria. When I was in school, if I had known that, I never knew. If someone had told me that, there's a possibility for you to go and school, do your MBA abroad, I'll laugh at you. Because, like I said, I don't have family in the US. I'm pretty much like the first person from my father and mother's side to, and I mean, it doesn't mean that my parents were poor, no, far from it, but it's just people were just comfortable in Nigeria. I didn't feel the need to like seek opportunities out there. So you don't know more than the things around, more than the environment, right? It's very difficult to know more than the environment. So I didn't really know that these opportunities were out there. When I was in school, my goal in life was just to get my ACCA, join one of the big 4 firms and make partner. And then I'd have died happy. But when I joined KPMG, which is one of the advantages of working in a place like KPMG, I started being exposed to certain kind of people, like testimony, that made me see that your scope of thinking is extremely limited, and there are a lot of things that you can do that you haven't even started thinking of. And that was what propelled me to start thinking bigger and trying to seek opportunities. And there's still a lot of things to be done, right? This is in 3, 4, 5 years' time. Hopefully we'll all be in better places, but just keep pushing and doing what you're doing. Know that there are other opportunities that may not necessarily be in Nigeria. So position yourself for them. And ultimately, just keep networking. Because for me personally, I always like to speak to undergraduates that reach out to me. Because guess what? There are usually very few. Like most of the people that reach out to you are people that, most of the people that reach out to me are people that have graduated.
And are already desperate. They're already desperate.
Exactly. Then they realize that, there are no jobs available. And then they start reaching out to people, which is not a bad thing, because that's also what I did. I was even worse because I didn't even reach out to people, so I was lucky. But if I see someone that is still in school and has the foresight to actively think about these things, I always respond to them and even have conversations with them, get on a WhatsApp call with them. So as much as possible, take advantage of those things and keep pushing on LinkedIn.
Thank you very much, Esosa. I appreciate it. Emmanuel Miti, you said a couple of your friends, they interview for BCG Analyst program, preparation for the next round of interviews. The next round of interviews should be basically case interviews. I think you joined the meeting late. Esosa has actually talked about this. And what's going to happen after this session is we're going to do the edits. I don't know when that's going to happen anyway, but I'm not going to promise that it's going to happen immediately. But it's going to happen definitely. But just to help some of them, they can leverage some of the resources that Esosa has mentioned, Management Consulted, on YouTube, and go check it out and see how you have. Then there is this particular guy. I don't know, Esosa, do you remember that guy, that Asian guy that does that consulting thingy. I've forgotten the name of that consulting. It really helped a lot. But I've
Is it a
forgotten.
book?
Yes, he has that book. Yes, how to is it?
I think that's the book I'm trying to. Yes, that is the book I'm trying to remember. That is so popular.
Yes,
that is the book I'm trying to remember. I feel like
yeah, it's so popular. I've forgotten it. I've forgotten the name. So it really, essentially, the crux of the matter, Emmanuel, is for that person to start looking for means to prepare for the case interview and leverage resources like management consulted, and again, build their math skill, their mental math skill, not math now, mental math skill. You know, there was a resource that Esosa mentioned, Rocket. I've forgotten it again. Is it
Rocket Blocks?
Rocket Blocks, yes. I don't know if that one is paid for, but if you use Prep Lounge has like free version, and on Prep Lounge you can get somebody to actually like case you. You can get someone to case you, just like do a case interview. Then you see where you stand for free on Prep Lounge. Have some money to subscribe for the higher plan there. So I think we've come to the end of this session. Esosa, thank you very much for your time. It's much appreciated, and we look forward to meeting you subsequently. I don't know, Esosa, can you hear me? Yeah, Esosa.
Yeah, we lost you for some seconds.
Yeah, it's Nigeria. Yeah, so as I was saying, I was like saying that you can leverage consulted, management consulted, Rocket Blocks. Prep Lounge also has this thing that if you can be able to like, you know, get somebody to case you for free. Somebody that is also, but the disadvantage is that person is actually looking to this interview. So you guys are almost at the same level of experience, but you can just type.
Yeah, but it's better than nothing.
But it's better than nothing. Yes.
Yeah.
You can just go on LinkedIn and reach out to a couple of people, maybe people that are already working as consultants. That's a long shot, but you can try. And again, as we do here, I'll try my best to keep bringing in quality people. Maybe by next month, we're going to have another consulting session. Now, this is with somebody that actually moved from Nigeria, like being a consultant in Nigeria, and moved from university to AU. So I think some of the questions that popped up might be relevant, and the person might even give more specific, specialized answers for the audience and other parts of it. So that will be all right now. And thank you very much, Esosa, for the time. I really appreciate you taking that time, and looking forward to meeting you some other time.
No wahala. It's all good. So you're looking forward to meeting me some other time.
Of course.
No
All right. Bye bye.
Thanks for the opportunity. Yeah. No worries. Bye.
Bye.